There are various views that have been expressed as to whether we want a strong parliamentary system, or we want a strong presidential system, or we want a hybrid of those. And what CAF is recommending, even as we continue with the consultations, and the chair has requested that we finalize our consultations and bring a report, possibly even through a memoranda, particularly on that issue, CAF is recommending as follows: that we need a structured civic education on the issue of the national executive and the thinking of the BBI report. Because, speak be told, the public, and in reference to Article 1 of the Constitution, the one who wields power in this country is vaguely aware of what is happening. They don't appreciate what is a presidential system. They don't appreciate what is a parliamentary system. They don't appreciate what is a hybrid. They don't appreciate the contents in detail of the BBI report. And that is why CAF is recommending a structured civic education, so that then the public can now be engaged in wide consultations as to what they would want to have on the national executive, the topmost office in the land. But whatever way we go, CAF is requesting that the process be all-inclusive and that it enhances this national unity that we are trying to get through this report and this process. We want to comment something on the National Parliament, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. We CAF propose that we retain the seats as they are in the National Parliament. And our proposal is that the Senate be the upper house. Currently, it is the other way around with the National Assembly. And CAF is also in agreement with the proposal of the BBI that we have ministers appointed from within and without the National Assembly. But at the same time, CAF proposes that CECs, that is the ones the executive in the county government, be also appointed from within and without county assemblies. Now, if Kenyans finally decide that it is a presidential system, then we shall need deputy ministers, so that when ministers are answering questions in Parliament, then deputy ministers are running the dockets, so that there's no vacuum in the leadership of any specific ministry. And we also say that when an MP is elected as a minister, then the deputy minister need to be a non-MP. We want to comment on the judiciary. We want to propose, and we actually propose, that 2% of the national revenue be allocated to the judiciary fund. And this is important to build the necessary capacity in the judiciary. We also want to ask that there be strict adherence to the separation of powers principles. And we also recommend that there be preservation. Let us go out of our way to preserve, to secure, and to give full independence to the judiciary. Because when everything else fails, we only have the judiciary to run to. And I guess everybody in Kenya understands what we mean. Of course, alongside that, we would need to check the issues of perceived corruption and the lack of trust in the judiciary at the moment, so that then Kenyans have full trust in that institution. We also need to strengthen the office of the ombudsperson of the judiciary. That is the link between the common mwananchi and the judiciary, before they even get to the judges and magistrates. Members of the committee, allow me to address the issue of national cohesion, which you have also addressed. The recommendations of CAF as follows: that we need a continuous sensitization of Kenyans on the provisions of Articles 10 and 232 of the Constitution. This is about national values and principles and the principles of public service. The other issue we want to address is that we want to work deliberately as Kenyans to instill a culture where I see myself as a Kenyan, but not as a Kikuyu, not as a Luo, not as a Nandi, not as any other tribe. In other words, let us create the culture of being Kenyans. We just look at the Rwandese and the Tanzanians, the Singaporeans. They have their ethnic backgrounds, but you rarely hear them introducing themselves as such. They'll say, I am a Singaporean, I'm a Tanzanian, I'm a Rwandese. We need to go that way. And then we need to implement some recommendations that were made by the National Cohesion and Integration Commission. And this is about public service. Because when they did research, they found that there is no fairness, there is nepotism, there is political inclinations in most of the public offices appointments, and this is a report on the County Public Service 2016. There's another one on parastatals 2016. There's another one on commissions 2016. The proposals in that report, if implemented, will go a long way to addressing the issue of public service, which is one area where we get a lot of antagonism and the feeling of unfairness, particularly when somebody is appointed not on the basis of merit, but on the basis of they are connected politically or because they have some relative somewhere who can put them in that office. Allow me also to address the issue of devolution. Now, on the equitable sharing of national revenue, CAF proposes 45% of the last audited accounts, but we want to ask that the audit process and the approval of the audited accounts by Parliament needs to be timely, as provided for in the Constitution and the Public Finance Management Act and related laws. We also want to ask that there be strict adherence to the recommendations of the CRA on revenue sharing. We were treated to scenarios where delays were witnessed, particularly on release of funds to the counties, because of that issue of National Assembly and Senate and so on, and between CRA not agreeing on what should go to counties. We are proposing that if there is any deviation from what CRA recommends, let it not be more than 3%. In South Africa, the process is that it is 100% adherence. So for purposes of giving discretion to our parliament, we can say let it be 3%. Now, CRA also need to cost shared functions so that, like in health, you notice Kenyatta National Hospital is still the business of the national government, whereas the better part of health is managed at the counties. We need clear costing of those shared responsibilities so that county governments know what is their role, and national government the same, so that then there is no lack of clarity, which leads to failure to give services to the mwananchi. We also asked to address the issue of financial autonomy to county assemblies. Chairman and members, it is unfortunate that up to date, county assemblies have to rely on the county executive to get their funding. If the county assemblies don't sit well with the county executive, they don't get their funding. And some have even had to resort to court to get court orders to force the executive to release their funding. The COB has no issue, the National Treasury has no issue, other authorities have no issue, but the executive, county executive decides county assembly won't get your money. Now, this plays negatively on the role of oversight. Because if I'm going to oversight somebody, and it's the same person who decides when I eat and when I take water, then of course I will not be able to oversight them effectively, and there will be frustration on the success of devolution. Remember, we talked of the role of county assemblies in devolution. And then we also request that there be a county assembly fund so that it is existing alongside the county revenue fund, so that we don't have all money for counties going to county revenue fund, and then that is when now the executive decides when it is to give monies to the assemblies from there. So let's have a county assembly fund. We also recommend that the county assembly service boards be modeled in the line of the Parliamentary Service Commission. And this is where we need to be very alert, because you notice the national parliament is very independent of the national executive. We need to do the same with the county executive and the county government. And then we also want to have the mandate the functions, responsibilities, and benefits of the member of National Parliament cascade down to the member of County Assembly. There is unfairness, particularly when it comes to benefits. When the members of the county assemblies look at what is going on in the National Parliament, they feel slighted. Yet, both are supposed to do oversight. Both are supposed to do legislation. Both are supposed to do representation of the people. We need to capacitate members of county assemblies in all ways so that then we are able to enable them to discharge their functions effectively. And so Parliament need to enact the necessary legal framework within 6 months of these committees finalizing the process and Kenyans deciding which way to go. On ward development, Chairman and members of committee, CAF is recommending that the ward be the primary unit of development, and we are happy you said that in your report. We also recommend that there be a ward equitable development fund. As to how that is going to be managed, we appreciate that members of county assemblies don't do execution of works. But then we need the ward equitable development fund to ensure that we bring up development in the wards. And we are proposing that there be 30% of the current annual county development budget going to that ward development, ward equitable development fund. Members of the committee, we are also proposing, because we are thinking of food security, let us have 10% of county allocation going to boost agriculture. And let us give guaranteed minimum to farmers on their returns for the inputs they do in farming. Then we want to address the issue of own source revenue, and this is very critical. We have a number of counties that have a lot of sources of revenue, and the revenue is not collected effectively. And this is important because it will boost the income and the budgets of the counties and also of the national government.